Right now, something could change the universe, and you wouldn't feel it. There would be no warning signs, no strange sensation in your body, no shift in the ground beneath your feet. Gravity could increase slightly while you're asleep, and when you wake up, everything would look exactly the same. Your phone would still be on the table. The walls would still stand. The sky would still look calm. And that illusion of normality is what makes this scenario terrifying. Gravity is not something humans evolved to consciously detect. We do not feel gravity itself. We feel resistance, pressure, and motion. As long as those changes remain within familiar limits, the brain quietly adapts and moves on. Even a small increase, 2%, 3%, would not trigger panic. It would not cause people to fall to the ground. Instead, it would slowly rewrite how much effort everything requires. Your muscles would need to work harder to perform the same actions. Your joints would experience slightly more stress. Standing up would take marginally more energy. Climbing stairs would feel a little heavier. Not alarming, just tiring. Doctors would blame modern lifestyles, stress, poor sleep, aging. No one would suspect a fundamental force of the universe had changed. But gravity doesn't just act on bodies. It acts on oceans, air pressure, architecture, and geology. Buildings are designed with safety margins. Invisible tolerances calculated assuming gravity will never change. A small increase would quietly eat into those margins. Nothing would collapse immediately. Instead, cracks would appear sooner than expected. Materials would fatigue faster. Structures that were supposed to last a century would start showing weakness in decades. The planet itself would feel it. Tectonic plates would experience more pressure. Magma chambers would behave differently. Earthquakes wouldn't become constant, but their patterns would shift. Subtle changes scientists would argue over for years. All the while, gravity would remain invisible, silent, unquestioned, and by the time anyone seriously considered the possibility that gravity itself had changed, the universe would already be operating under a new rule set. The first undeniable clues wouldn't come from Earth. They would come from orbit. Satellites rely on extremely precise gravitational calculations. Even a tiny change would cause orbits to decay faster than expected. Corrections would become more frequent. Fuel reserves would deplete earlier than planned. At first, engineers would assume human error, faulty sensors, outdated models, but then patterns would emerge. Different satellites, built by different countries, using different systems, all drifting slightly off course in the same way. GPS accuracy would degrade, communication delays would increase. Space agencies would quietly compare notes, trying to understand what variable they all missed. Then the moon would begin to misbehave. Its orbit would tighten slowly, pulling tides higher and stronger. Coastal regions would notice increased flooding during storms. Erosion would accelerate. Entire ecosystems would shift without an obvious cause. Still, nothing dramatic enough to trigger global panic. Inside stars, however, the consequences would be far more severe. Gravity is the force that balances nuclear fusion. Increase it, and stars burn hotter and faster. The sun's core would compress, raising fusion rates. It would brighten slightly, not enough to notice immediately, but enough to disrupt planetary climates over time. Seasons would shift. Weather extremes would increase. Long-term stability would vanish. Across the galaxy, stars would age faster. Massive stars would reach supernova conditions sooner. Black holes would grow more aggressively, feeding on surrounding matter with increased efficiency. Galaxies themselves would tighten. Collisions that were supposed to happen billions of years from now would be pulled forward. The universe would become more compact, more violent, less forgiving, and no technology could stop it. Gravity does not care about borders, politics, or intelligence. It acts equally on everything. Once it changes, adaptation is the only option. By the time scientists confirm the truth, gravity would already feel normal. A generation would have grown up under the new conditions. Their bodies would adapt during development. Bones would become denser, muscles stronger, hearts more efficient. Pain thresholds would shift. What once felt exhausting would feel ordinary. Humanity would normalize the impossible, just as it always has. History shows that slow disasters are the hardest to recognize. Climate shifts, ecological collapse, resource depletion. They don't announce themselves with a single moment of realization. They creep. A gravitational shift would be the ultimate slow disaster, because it operates beneath everything else. Every building code would need revision. Every engineering formula would quietly change. Space travel would become more expensive. Flight would require more fuel. Infrastructure would strain under loads it was never designed to handle. Civilizations wouldn't collapse overnight. They would grind. More energy would be required to maintain the same standard of living. Food production would become harder. Transportation more costly. Inefficiency would spread everywhere at once. And there would be no solution, no way to reverse gravity, no way to escape it. If gravity changed suddenly, humanity wouldn't face an apocalypse, it would face a future that slowly became heavier, harder, less stable, until one day people would look back and wonder why life felt more difficult than it used to, without ever realizing the universe itself had been pressing down on them all along. And that is the most unsettling possibility of all. Not that gravity could change, but that if it did, we would survive long enough to suffer through the consequences. For more curiosities and mysteries of the universe, like and subscribe to the channel.